All right, guys, this is episode 12. Welcome. Um, thanks for checking this out. Hope everybody's having a happy Memorial Day out there and is being safe. Um, Here we're on episode 12 with our guest, Mr. Gary Ervin, coach of the Nazareth High School boys basketball team, former All-City player, former Division I player, and former pro. Gary, thank you for coming on to speak to me and talk, basically speak your testimonial. Happy to have you.
Hey, man, first of all, appreciate you for, having me today. Hope you guys are blessed, obviously in this pandemic. So, obviously for us to even be able to do something like this is a blessing within itself. So, once again, thanks.
Indeed. So let me ask you first, since now that you're a coach, what's your coaching philosophy?
As far as game situation goes, or just in general, like just a regular day?
Yeah, either or.
I'll just start with a regular day, like just the start of a day, rather, or just a night or anything in my world. It just consists of just finding ways to get better, from film, even if it's watching my film from overseas and things like that to, see what type of plays I need to run, defensive schemes and stuff like that. Obviously my philosophy as a coach is first and foremost is defense. I came from the Larry Major era, and it was built on hard work and dedication on that defensive end, and I think that gives kids freedom on the other end. That's how I coach. I don't care what type of shots you take, as long as it's in the flow of the game, and sharing the basketball with your teammates. Other than that, like I say, it's defense first. I don't care if you nice enough in practice and you shooting from almost half court. I'm not gonna say I'm one of those old school coaches that dislike it. Obviously you got better shots, but I'm the type of person that, if you got confidence to do it, because my coaches let me rock, and I played through all type of adversity and mistakes. So that's our coach.
Indeed. So, when did basketball first become a presence in your life?
I come from a basketball family. I think a lot of people don't know the history of my family when it comes to basketball. Especially the kids in my era. Down the line, all my uncles played. One of my uncles' name was Gary Ervin. He probably was one of the best players in New York City history. He played at, which is Paul Robeson now, but it was Alexander Hamilton. They had 10 to 11 D1 players. He played against the likes of Chris Mullen, John Sally. The list goes on. Obviously he could have went to Houston and played with that five slammer jammer team with Hakeem Olajuwon and Clyde Drexler. So it started there, but the person, obviously you could say you started playing basketball like 2 and stuff like this, but one of the first people besides my family and my brother, my big brother, was my best friend, Bubba. I don't know, a lot of people don't know him. You probably know him for playing it with SOG with me. His name is Super Bub. He the one who introduced me to really, really, really to start playing basketball. And I say that was around like 10 years old.
Indeed. So, what part of Brooklyn are you from?
I'm from South Brooklyn, so that's downtown. Like close to where Fridge, Circus. He was one of the first to do it from downtown when it comes to actually like close to my era of basketball. So that's one of the guys that we actually looked up to. But I spent half of my time there, and then Crown Heights. So Nostrand Avenue or St. Mark's Avenue. So I rep both hard.
Okay. So talk about, the basketball culture of Brooklyn.
It's kind of it's good that you say that, because I'm watching a lot of these lives, and usually we do the lives with a lot of uptown guys. I mean, you might know players and stuff like that when it comes to that, but the culture in Brooklyn is big. I tell you like this, every team that people watching street ball, they got a Brooklyn kid on their team. But it's kind of almost the same. It's hard. They say we bullies on the court. We bring a type of attitude, a type of swag. Sometimes it may not be pretty basketball, but we just bring that tough, rugged style to a game. You may have some people that play pretty, but I can say, like, for myself, I came up watching like Charles Jones and Bam and Selden Jefferson and Booger Smith. So it's a different style. I mean, obviously from what the people like to watch when you quote unquote saying street ball. I mean, I think we are point guard heavy as well. Obviously you got the people like Jamal Tinsley, you got Beetle Washington, who a lot of people don't speak about. You got Pearl Washington, so it's like any other borough, when it comes to that. But I think just Brooklyn is that rugged. We bring that rugged style of play.
So as a kid, what was the one tournament that you liked playing in the most?
As a kid, I could say, I'll give it to you like this. I'll give two tournaments. So as actually like a kid, so I'll say like around my 12-year-old, 12, 13. One would be preteen, because that's one of the first tournaments that I've played in that actually have all the stats. Assists, steals, rebounds, turnovers. That was one. But if I had to think of something else, it would be citywide. We all know right by the FDR, the big park right there. I think citywide was really dope because it brought teams from all over the city, and especially in our age groups.
Indeed. All right. So what AAU team did you play with during your high school years?
I played with the Panthers, which probably was one of the better teams that I've seen in my era. I don't know if people would probably, beg to differ, but we had like the likes of Lenny Cook, Kurt Sumter, Jason Frazier, Charlie Villanueva, Darryl Showtime Hill, myself. We had Kendall Prophet for a little while, Tim Doyle, Ante Gates. So we were stacked. But then on the flip side, Riverside is really is what's home for me. So I'll say that I played with the Panthers because I did for a few, but Riverside is home. And obviously it was a tale of playing with a lot of guys at different positions to now with Riverside, we was guard-oriented, and we just did a lot of good things. Obviously, I played with the likes of Jason Wingate, Kiki Clark, Ricky Saliva, Bobby Santiago, me, P.D. Nelson, Willie Irick. But then my senior year, we was like number 2 or 3 in the country as far as AAU goes. And then we wound up being number 1 for a while, which was me, Quincy Doobie, AJ Price, Otoro, Willie Irick again, PD. We were stacked, you know what I mean? So, but my home is Riverside Church, so I brought it uptown.
Now let's get into Robeson. So you said for the first couple of years of high school, you didn't play basketball. Why?
I played as a freshman, but I played half of the season, and then I wound up failing off because I thought basketball was bigger than books. And I didn't take that real serious. Obviously, I had a great supporting cast, with my family, but end of the day, you're a young man going into a different situation. We already know the history of Robeson, so it was just a culture shock, really. So I really didn't play. Then my sophomore year, I wound up going back to move with my mom to Atlanta, and I was attending Wheeler. And the reason why I didn't stay in Atlanta is because I didn't get a chance to flow into it. You know, I didn't stay down there for the summer to get adjusted to it, to see that slow pace. And, you know, I was a city kid. So for me to just go right in, cold turkey, and just to jump in and go to school, I wasn't comfortable. So I begged to come back. And by the time I came back, you know, the rules were a little bit different, and I wasn't able to play my sophomore year.
So, like, how long did you stay down in Atlanta?
I stayed for a few months. So I came back to Robeson, I say, like, after the first month or two of basketball.
So, you know, December, January.
Yeah, around December.
Okay. So let's go to your junior year. You know, you guys had a spectacular season, and you get to the finals. You got to the finals your junior year, right?
Both, my junior and senior year.
So, like, talk about your junior year overall.
My junior year was my coming out party. I mean, when I say coming out party, just from a PSAL standpoint, in a New York City high school basketball standpoint. I mean, I was known, but, you know, you really get known by playing high school basketball. You know, so it's one of those things that we returned a lot of players. I mean, we were pretty good, had a tough schedule. We went away to, like, Vegas and into California. We were pretty good, but I think we're the number one seed in New York my junior year, and we wound up, I want to say we lost twice, or we lost once, and our second loss was in the Garden. So I mean, I thought that was big. I think I kind of seen a highlight or something. We was either 26-2 or we finished 26-3, so it was one of the two. But it was us and Grady. We played against Grady and LIU, which was the battle of both of the best teams in PSAL. When I say the city, I'm saying PSAL. Obviously, you had great teams like Rice and St. Raymond's, but we were the top of the crop as well. We beat them at LIU, and then they beat us in the finals at the Garden.
Then talk about your senior year. You guys had another successful year again, and this time in the championship game, y'all got to meet up against Lincoln and Sebastian Telfair. How was, you know, that game?
Oh, that's funny, because actually we beat Sebastian in his freshman year to go to the Garden. Lincoln versus Robeson to go to the Garden my junior year. But we played against them. We played against them at LIU as well. We had a tough 3-game back-to-back my senior year, which was pretty good. But I don't like to skip it. Before we talk about that, is it really started and my mentality shifted that season AAU and ABCD camp. You know, that was really big, because now I'm actually really starting to actually play AAU basketball and, you know, play against quote unquote the top players in the country, and it's about, you know, what you do. So I thought it was really big, because you want a measuring stick. You know what you're doing in New York City, but you want to know and see the competition outside of the city. So we played the likes of Raymond Felton, who was probably one of the toughest players that I had to battle against. And I had 43, and he had like 35 or 37 or something like that. So, I mean, obviously we know Raymond Felton is who knows how long he's been in the league, 12, 14 years, something like that. You know, so I thought that was a great measuring stick. You know, so I was able to play against some of the top guys in the country, and not just really hold my own, but actually get a best of a lot of these guys. And I wish that we had film to see it. But after that, going into my senior year, so I was really a man on a mission. You know, I got a taste of a little success, and I wanted to keep pushing with that. And Larry Major, he pushed me, you know, to the limits, obviously, and my teammates did as well. we wound up losing to Sebastian and them in the championship, which is a great game. But the battle between us wasn't, I can't say it's overhyped because we were two of the best guys in the city, let alone in the state. But like I told you earlier, at Robeson, we played defense, so I would always guard everybody's best player. And within being the best player on my own team. You know, but Sebastian never guarded me. So when people ask about the matchups, we just matched up as far as us being on the same court, not us actually guarding each other. So it's kind of a little different than what people may say. We obviously know that the matchup and what you want to see mano a mano. And I think it was best for the city to see it, but we didn't get to really do it like that.
I feel you. So going back to the ABCD camp, like I saw an old article from that. Like how was it, you know, you getting that first taste of like notoriety for doing like something like really, really good on the court?
It was dope, you know, because around that time when you at the camp, you get to actually get college coaches to, you know, call you. You know what I mean? So, like, that's when I got a taste of walking in and listening to the messages, all the college coaches, Arizona, all of them, Clemson, Kansas, like, you know, all of the top, UConn, every top school or any schools that you can kind of think of and imagine, you're getting calls from. But just to see that the hard work and dedication is really paying off, that, you know, you got college coaches, you know, watching you, and you watch some of these guys on TV, you watch some of these coaches on He Got Game and stuff like that, but you could kind of see them, you know, within arm's reach. So I thought that was something special, and it made me want more. You know, once you start seeing something and you start, you know, getting a taste and a feel of, wow, this is what it's like, it pushes you a lot. So I think that's what it did for me. It pushed me to my limits, just to be able to, you know, to be able to see and to hear these college coaches leave messages and actually like your game and what you bring to the table.
So before we move on to Notre Dame Prep, let's talk about Larry Major for a second. Like, how much of an influence was he on you during your youth?
I wouldn't be a basketball player without him. You know, and that's honestly speaking from himself. Like I say, with slacking and not really taking basketball serious and just being a kid from, you know, poverty and, you know, from urban areas, you know, just doing the regular stuff. You know, I'm playing because I love it, but not knowing where it could take me. And he was the first to really, like, make me snap out of it. Like, yo, you need to get yourself together in school because you could be very, very, very special. And I remember it vividly. It was my sophomore year, like I said, when I came back. You know, at that time, you don't really get in trouble for playing high school kids out of state because, you know, you can play kids out of state. So I played against Melvin Scott, who played at North Carolina, and I killed him. You know, obviously he was a senior, but, you know, I probably had like 19 points, but, you know, or whatever it was. But that's when I had an eye-opener for real to, like, you know, to turn that switch on and be like, you know, if you ever want to be somebody special or to be able to play the basketball game at a high level, you got to handle your business in school first. But he was one of those guys to where he took us to all college games, no matter where it's at. He did a lot of great things for us that are not a lot of people really respect and understand.
That's wonderful. So after Robeson, you wound up going to Notre Dame Prep. You know, talk about that experience. Like, was it a culture shock when you first got there?
Yeah, somewhat. Just because, I mean, obviously, it's in Fitchburg, Massachusetts. You know what I mean? Like, everything closed at about 7 o'clock. You know, it's quiet all day. It's hills. Like, it's definitely a culture shock. But at that time, I was already on a mission. I just came off of a really great AAU season where I became top 3-point guards in the country. You know, I dominated at Nike All-American camp. So now it's just a matter of, you know, obviously going to prep school because I slacked my freshman and half of my sophomore year in the classroom. So prep school was only the real route, maybe, because I didn't take the SAT score. So, you know, I didn't take the SAT. I graduated, but the SAT score was really the problem. And it wasn't because I actually, I didn't get a qualifying grade. I only took it one time. And the one time, you know, I passed, you know, like I got the score that I needed. So it's kind of one of those things as, did I really need it? Or I could have taken the SAT right away. But I mean, I think it was the experience, but it also helped me as a player just to be able to play again and, you know, just to get my name pushed out there a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. So that 2003 Jordan Brand game, you played with LeBron, Chris Paul, Shannon Brown, a whole bunch of names. You know, talk about what it was like playing in front of NBA scouts at that event and Michael Jordan.
It was definitely big. Like I said, you watch it on TV, you watch the brand games. Obviously, the Adidas side of it is the Magic game. And then, you have the McDonald's game, and then you have the Jordan Brand game. Those are the top 3 All-American games in my era. But it was awesome. I mean, I think the biggest one was playing in front of the NBA scouts at the practice game.
The scrimmage.
The practice game. You do the practice scrimmage. I thought that was really big because it was nothing. But I mean, it was crazy with college with NBA scouts. It was super dope, and you could kind of get some feedback and what you like and what people like. So I mean, or what the scouts like. I thought that was the biggest thing. But just to play at the time, it was the MCI Center, I believe, down in Washington. Playing with those guys was just like playing. It's just playing basketball. You know, I was one of the elite, so it wasn't like I'm looking and I'm like, damn, this is LeBron James. We're on the same court. You know, we've played against each other in AAU, and obviously he's going down as one of the greatest to ever play the game. You got Chris Paul is going down as one of the greatest point guards to ever play the game, but we were side by side. You know, obviously things don't pan out how you always want them, and this was my actual road to success. You know, we all want to be in the NBA. We all want to be all-stars. You know, that's what we dream of. But the reality is not everybody make it, you know, and it's a small window, a small opportunity, and you really don't know who's watching. So you really, for the kids today, I have a lot of advice because I've been through it all. I've been one of those guys that was highly recruited. And you got to know and take those certain steps to get there. So, I mean, just to play with those guys was dope. And it's something that we'll always remember forever. You know, I speak to Rome Travis, and he always say, yo, LeBron always asks about you, talking about you. You know, Jesse Sapp and Justin always say, like, yo, or every time Melo talks about stories, he talk about the stories of me and, you know, the battles we had and how cool, you know, we are and stuff like that. So that's the things that actually live on forever more than anything.
Wow, that's big. And in the game, it says you scored 12 points and had 6 assists. Not a bad stat line. And you started 2.
Yeah, what's kind of funny is I actually, like, didn't shoot great in that game. But, I mean, it goes to tell you, if I played around 30 minutes and I think I shot about 17, 16 shots. But I played a really good game, you know, that game. But, I mean, obviously, like you said, just, you know, stats in a game like that is pretty cool. But the biggest thing is the opportunity and the relationships that you build. You know, those are bigger than the actual game. I mean, obviously, you go down in history, you kind of watch ESPN or you kind of watch all the stuff with LeBron, and all he talks about is when I threw the lob off the backboard for him.
Oh, that was you. Wow. That's big.
Yeah. That threw the lob, that was me.
I gotta go see that game because I remember I was probably 10 years old at that time, and I probably did see the game. And then I remember that slam. I just didn't know who threw that pass. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So after that, after Notre Dame Prep, you went on to Mississippi State. How was your 2 years there?
My 2 years. I mean, obviously, my first year was one of the best experience in college for me, and only because Mississippi State was pretty good the year before. They lost their starting point guard. We got one of the top transfers in Lawrence Roberts, and he was putting in that work at Baylor. And, then that incident happened, and he wound up coming over. But my first year, we was ranked top 4 in the country throughout the season. We wound up losing our second SEC game to Kentucky. And that was probably my coming out party just because it was on national television. I think I had like 13 points, 4 rebounds, 4 steals, like 3 assists in the first half. Mm-hmm. And that's the first time, as a kid, you get to hear Dick Vitale, and he's just talking really good about me. And obviously, what Kentucky is to college basketball. And to hear Tubby Smith talking about, we got to find a way to stop the freshman because he's disrupting everything that my guards are doing. And at the time, that was Gerald Fitch and Cliff Hawkins, which are 2 All-Americans, and they're seniors and juniors, and I'm a freshman. But we had a great season. We wound up winning about 15 games in a row. We were 8-0 on the road in the SEC, which is hard to do, to basically go undefeated in a row. And we got all the way up to like number 3 in the country. So I mean, my freshman year was a blessing. Obviously, my sophomore year, I played pretty good. I averaged about 10 points, 6 assists. We was nationally ranked throughout the whole year and lost to Duke in the Sweet 16. So my 2 years there wasn't what I expected, but it still was a success. We went to the tournament twice, got a ring, so from the SEC. So that's always a blessing.
And then you go on to Arkansas for your final 2 years. Unfortunately, well, actually, did you guys make it to the tournament when you were there?
I made it to the tournament all 4 years in college.
Okay.
And I went to we only lost in the first round once. But that was another great experience. Obviously, we were pretty good, but we had our ups and downs. And that team right there was one of the most talented teams that we had, period. But you know how you just get teams, like you could think about it in New York City, when you just got a team full of dogs or urban kids or whatever it is. We were that good, but we just couldn't find a way to put it all together in one, to make something special out of it. But that team, those 2 years, our team were really, really good. We were good at every position. Like, it wasn't no position that we were actually lacking. A lot of people say that, but we actually were really, really good at all positions.
Mm-hmm. So then after college, you went pro. It seemed like you had a long list of places you went. Like, let's talk about you playing in the NBA G League, or at that time the D League. Like, you went undrafted. Like, how was it, making the G League team?
That was a pretty good experience. Obviously, the best experience were that me and Gary Forbes are brothers. Like, we were childhood friends. We played with each other. AAU. So it's nothing better to got the same name. I'm GE, he GF. You know what I mean? Like, so we kind of clown about that. But Gary got drafted first round. I forgot what pick, and then I got drafted the second round, that same pick. So obviously for us to be able to go from Brooklyn, New York together in the same neighborhood to now pursuing our dreams, as professional basketball players. I mean, we also had another guard who doesn't get a lot of respect in New York City, maybe not because of street ball, but just him as a whole, is the dude called Duke Elliott. Carl Elliott that played with George Washington, with Pop Mitsubonso and them when they was making those deep runs in the tournament, top 25, top 15 ranked. He was already there. So that year was pretty dope, making that team and actually, playing. And then when the tables turned, I got a chance to actually play against some of the elite players. I don't know if people remember Eddie Gill that played with the Nets. And he played with the Pacers, started with the Pacers, was able to play against him. And that's when I knew that I was back to being myself as a basketball player when I got to the G League. Or, well, the D League at that nature.
And then you went on to play for Canada. In Canada for the Halifax Rainmen. Like, how was it playing north of the border?
That actually was a dope experience, and it's kind of funny because I was going to actually go somewhere else and play and start playing overseas in Europe, but rest in peace to John Strickland. He called me like, yo, I really need you to come, to Halifax XYZ, and I thought that would be something good, obviously, just because it was John Strickland. He's a legend in New York. I played with him and under him at Pro City. So, playing there was a dope experience. We had a lot of guys from New York playing at the time. We had a lot of guards from New York that was there already. So it was kind of one of those things where you had to compete really within your inner family from all being from New York City to, to be, that top spot or to take the point guard. So for instance, the battles was Idris DeLeon, which is hard to guard, Andy Freeze, which is Antoine Doby, and me. We were all battling for playing time and starting positions and stuff like that. So, obviously that was always dope. And, I thought that was really a start of something good. I probably had like 5 or 6 triple doubles, playing there, which is underrated about me. I was runner up in the dunk contest. I got MVP in the All-Star game. So Halifax was really like one of the spark plugs, obviously, of just being known. I was on my way to going to Europe, but that stop right there was very important.
Then you went to Australia, played for a couple of teams for a period of
5 years.
Yeah. How was Australia?
That was the best stop. And it's not because of the accolades that made it the best stop. It's just as a professional basketball player, it's about going somewhere where all you have to do is really worry about basketball. Mm-hmm. And, and I don't think that people understand that that's really the most important. You don't know how you go to these different countries and, they're playing with money and their money's not on time and you're missing a month. In Australia, it was just straight business. Your money's on time. It might even come a little bit early into your bank account. Like, so all you had to do was worry about getting better and performing on the basketball court. I mean, and obviously being in Australia, for me, being a New York City kid, you get summer really all year round, quote unquote, because it's the opposite. So when it's winter here, it's summer there. So now when you leaving in August, going into, a different weather, it's you going into summer in Australia. So I think that was a big reason for me staying there so long as well.
That's awesome. So like ProAms, let's talk about ProAms. What was like one tournament that you liked, to play in as far as ProAms?
Really? It was always Westfall first, only because you watch, that's a legendary court, and you watch some of the best people to ever do it play there. But more than anything, too, I say Pro City, because you get to see the best of the best there. Is the guys that's still playing in the NBA, and it's inside. So you're going to see more star power playing inside and preserving your legs and your knees more than anything. So I think Pro City was probably it. I just love playing in West Forth because of just the atmosphere, a small court. You know, you have to be skilled enough to handle your business in West Forth. But I would say between that and Pro City, but I'll give Pro City a little bit of a nod just because you get to see more NBA players. So you get a chance to play against a lot of NBA players, in which I did. And I don't care if it's not the NBA. No NBA players is gonna come there and have do it because you don't want to get talked about. Nobody's just going there to just play rec basketball because you know you have people coming for your head. So I thought that was really big for me and actually my growth as a player in New York City.
Talk about when did you first decide to start coaching?
I say 2016, maybe. Say 2000, maybe 2017. 2017, 2018, I played that. 2017. I was kind of like on the verge of retiring from basketball, just because of I hurt my back really bad, and my season was over. And Tiny reached out like, "Yo, what you think about coaching Juice?" And I never thought about it, and I'm like, it sounds good. He like, yo, you got a lot to give to these kids, your story, your dedication, these kids would be a sponge to you. So I decided to start coaching with him actually first on 17s. And we had a really good, solid team, and we did some really big things. I mean, we played well in the Adidas Gartland, and in Vegas we went to the Final Four and obviously lost to the champions. So that's my first year of coaching.
And then, the summertime you did New York versus New York, I think 2 or 3 years. Like, and you guys won 2 of the first 3 championships in New York versus New York. Like, how does it feel to have had, like, all the talent along with Charles Jones,
First, shout out to Fridge and Rodney from the Stompers because they did a hell of a job into which people don't say nothing about how talented the team was, but that was the first chip. The second team was handpicked, and handpicked for reasons to where, we wanted to kind of stay Brooklyn, more than anything. Obviously, is a Brooklyn team, but it was with a bunch of kids that was under the radar at the end of the day. Kadari wasn't known. They won the champions, but he wasn't known. Femi was known a little bit, but they still wasn't known. JC had a solid year his freshman year, but those are guys that got it, how they quote unquote say, out of the mud. And we had no top 25 kids, or top 100 kids. So I thought that we just did a great job of picking the right team and the right talent that was gonna benefit each other. And one of the most underrated players of that whole team was Iquan Butler from Robeson, the point guard. He was steady Eddie. He was the reason why, regardless of what you threw throughout the year, his big play at Riverbank was one of the reasons why we was able to take that next height to get to the championship. Mm-hmm. I mean, then obviously, last year, now we the defending champs back to back, and we had a bullseye. Now we actually have those kids that have a buzz. We got those kids, and now you went from being like they were hunting for you now. Like you was the hunting for before, but now they're hunting for you. So that was kind of a different whole scenario. And we also we seen a kid become a New York City star and Kadari for what he was doing in New York versus New York and throughout the whole city. So that's dope. All of that stuff is a blessing to be able to coach a bunch of talented guys like that. But in all reality, even with that talent, it's how do you coach those guys? You got to find a way to, control egos and, to make the right subs and, make sure everybody's playing, together at the end of the day. So to see all of those guys from that team all go D1, whether it's Syracuse, Pitt, LSU, UConn, Charlotte, like the list goes on. So I think that's really dope. And I was blessed to be picked for that position with me and Charles.
That last game that you guys played was a good one. And unfortunately, things went, the way they went. Like, how did you feel about that last game?
I mean, if anybody knows and you watched the whole basketball game.
Yeah, I was there. I was sitting on the floor.
It was a great game. And I don't like to, because everybody makes mistakes. You have mistakes throughout the whole game. And I'm not going to say that refs robbed you, but it's certain plays in the game that really hurt. Like when I forgot, I think it was Femi who went to lay the ball up and he missed. And Rich tipped in an N1. They called foul, and it was an N1. And we supposed to go up 4 with a free throw to go up 5. And they blew the whistle as he was laying up, but they said it was on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
But that was one of those big things to where, like that was a game changer. But there's a lot of plays that we had to actually win the basketball game and not the free throws that Femi took that, quote-unquote, people are saying he lost the game. He didn't lose the game off of that. So that was a very interesting game. It was a great game. And those guys beat us, and that was our first loss in New York versus New York, period. So.
Oh, that's right. You guys were undefeated up until that game.
Yeah, up until that game. Yeah, so.
Wow.
So, I mean, that's one of those things to where it happened. And to even be in that position, to be undefeated or to be a 2-time defending champ with all of that talent, all of those great coaches and stuff like that, I thought that was pretty dope.
So talk about, coaching at Nazareth the first year under Tiny, and what type of stuff did Tiny teach you?
I mean, obviously within itself, Tiny's a legendary coach. Probably one of the greatest to ever do it. If you ask me in the PSAL, I know people quote unquote speak about the Mo Hicks and the Gary diseases or whatever you want to, think of it. But Tiny has done a great job. I mean, obviously, just the coaching, just the coaching structure, just seeing how you manage the game and things like that. Everybody's coaching philosophy is different, and Tiny's is unique for him. But it also, the biggest was the stuff without playing, learning what it is about, like the test scores and, what a kid needs to qualify. I thought that was the biggest thing more than anything, because that's the stuff that's really important, because when you're learning from somebody, you have to learn it all, because when you start becoming that next head coach, you might not take the plays and the style of play and things like that from them, but there's a lot of stuff that I will take from Tiny that's going to live with me for a long time. And right now, he's still my mentor. That's my coach. You know what I mean? Like, he's the person that helped me when I have questions. And in New York City, I was able to be up under 3 great people to help me as a coach: Larry Major, Kenny Pretlow, and Tiny Morton. So we all know that Kenny Pretlow don't get the credit he deserves. And he's probably top 10. I don't know, because you can go, from back in the day, but I know from in my era of basketball, in my 36 years in life, Kenny P is a great. And I'm sorry I didn't talk about him early because he transferred me from a scoring person to being a point guard that when those opportunities come to take over game, then you take over a basketball game. So he's part of the reason that I went from ranked a certain way to ranked 28 or 30 in the country, wherever that's and thanks to him as well.
Absolutely. So talk about, your first year as a head coach at Nazareth following Tiny leaving.
It was, obviously it's kind of hard because I wasn't able to get a off season with the kids, let alone you had about 8-9 kids that left as well. But I also thought that with the team that I had this year, if I would have had them 2 months earlier, we would have been pretty good. But this first year, from not being so good and having to teach these kids from the roots is going to make me, and it showed that I have a lot of patience and that I can actually teach the game of basketball, because you can see from how they started to how they finished at the end of the year by losing by 1 in the playoffs, that, what I'm teaching is working and it's helping these kids. So imagine me with more talent and getting the kids that I want and the style of play that I want to play is going to be a game changer. And I think this year with my freshman class is now the start of the era of me as a high school basketball coach.
Now, you and Tiny, you guys have both been vocal on his live about this issue, this one particular issue. What do you feel needs to be changed within the New York City basketball structure? Like, or shall I say, what changes that do you feel that need, to happen?
It's a lot. It's not really one thing. It's a lot. I'll hit you after I'm done with the interview. I'm doing an interview. I'll call you after. So, one of the biggest is unity. I think we're in competition with each other as coaches. And that's where it starts, because we're saying that we're talking about these kids and them leaving or they transferring from school to school. Let's be honest, they're only kids. They can't make decisions for themselves. So if we as coaches, mentors, and adults, if we hold these kids to certain standards, it will help New York City in a whole. To where if I have a kid and I'm making him work a certain way to get better, and he wants something handed to him, he shouldn't be, to me, be able to go and listen to coaches tell him otherwise to benefit them. The only way we can get better and these kids is going to learn is by working through adversity and getting better from it and not running every time adversity hits. I think that that's really one of the problems, and it starts with the adults. And I think the next one is realistically the AAU teams and the high school teams are not on the same page, because the AAU teams want power, but you with a kid for 2 months, maybe 3 months, maybe. And when I was growing up playing basketball, all of the AAU coaches were actually in tune with high school coaches and were talking to them and was getting that understanding and making sure it's good, and it not just benefiting what's going on with the actual program as far as AAU. So I think that that's the biggest, if you ask me.
Mm-hmm. So if you could go back to 2001, what would you tell young Gary at 16? You probably 18 at this time, right?
2001, 17.
Yeah, what would you tell Gary at 17 as he's coming back from Atlanta and going back to Robeson? Yeah, what would you go back and tell yourself at that age?
Honestly, maybe that is bigger than basketball, you know, because as an adult, I see that as much time as you put into basketball is still a small part of your life and your growth. And I think we tend to, as young people, we just focus on the small part, which is basketball, and not understanding that education is really, really key. We may speak upon it, but it really is, because if you get hurt today or tomorrow and you don't have a college education or education, even just regular high school diploma, that's a problem. But I wouldn't change my experiences for the world, because it's made me who I am. It's made me this person that worked hard. I had to prove myself on every level. So now, for me to be a coach, I know what it takes to get better on every level. And now I have a blueprint to give to these kids to succeed and to be better than me if you follow it.
So final question, what's next in the future for Gary Ervin, a.k.a. G. Erv?
For me, and I guess not to toot my horn, but I think that everything that I touch I won't just quote unquote say it turns gold, but I've been very successful as a basketball player on all levels. So I think my next thing is I'm not a championship. I wouldn't base nothing on championships. So I don't want to say I want to win more championships than Tiny. I want to do this. I want to be a young man and an adult that's known for the kids, that's known for the community, and more than anything is putting kids into college year in and year out. So that's what you're going to see, and that's what I want to be known for, besides, you know, actually the basketball player that I was before.
Well, thank you, G. Erv. I really appreciate you coming on to tell your story, and I wish you the best of luck with Nazareth and everything else moving forward.
Appreciate you having me, man. And you and your family stay blessed.
Absolutely. Well, everybody, this is episode 12. Check it out on your YouTube and Instagram TV. Everybody stay safe and be blessed. Peace.
Later.